It's been 1 week since we moved the clocks forward and lost an extra hour of sleep. Have the dark mornings discouraged your start of the day? Is it worth adding an extra hour of daylight when we sprung forward March 12th? Or are we making ourselves miserable? According to a 2010 telephone poll by Rasmussen Reports, they noted that 47% of Americans think it's a pretty silly idea to move clocks forward and back each year. A similar poll of my Facebook friends found that of the 25 that replied, 18 of them would rather the time stay the same. Each year, state legislatures across the country try and push bills through to eliminate daylight saving time, only to have the bills fail. Everyone has an opinion on daylight saving time, and I think it's time to determine its validity in our day. I'll explain the history of daylight saving time and the reasons why this system should be eliminated and we should be on one standard time. Daylight saving time wasn't created by some government bureaucrat trying to gain favor with his constituents. Way back when, there was a reason why the clocks moved forward and back. There's a popular phrase that goes something like this: make hay while the sun shines. Ancient civilizations were believed to have put into practice moving clocks forward and back to make best use of the daylight hours. Benjamin Franklin, most likely in jest, suggested to Parisians that they could save on candles by getting up at sunrise and working through the natural light. In 1916, efforts were made during World War II to economize on fuel rations by setting the clocks ahead. After World War II, the countries went back to standard time. In 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt instituted daylight saving time in the United States. This practice added war to the time zone name. After World War II was over, war was removed and the word peace was added to each time zone name. The Uniform Time Act of 1966 was presented in Congress as a way to eliminate the confusion when different states use different times. This introduced the idea to spring forward in April and fall back in October. States, however, could decide to do their own thing. The Energy Policy Act of 2005 was enacted to extend daylight saving time. The current schedule is now springing forward the second Sunday in March and falling back the first Sunday in November. There are over 70 countries that have implemented daylight saving time, and it is still quite controversial throughout the United States. I think it's time that we now discuss the reasons why this system should be eliminated. First, your health. It may be in jeopardy when you change the clock. Over time, our body clocks adjust to the actual time by responding to the intensity of the sun. So each time we change an actual clock, our body clock has a harder time adjusting to that new time. A 2008 study showed that 3 days following the spring time change, there was a 5% risk increase in heart attacks. Your body is more vulnerable to this stress and is not as steady when that time changes. In the fall, however, that risk decreases back to normal rates. Changing the clock may also put at risk your memory function, memory condition, and mood. Workplace injuries and traffic accidents are more common when the clocks move forward. Second, outdoor enthusiasts love an extra hour of sunshine at the end of the workday, but it doesn't save money and energy costs. If you live in Arizona, one state in the union that does not change its time, The argument could be made that it doesn't save money because temperatures in Arizona can sometimes reach upwards of 122 degrees. The air conditioner is running more often, and people would rather spend time in cool buildings rather than out in the hot sun. A 2008 study in Indiana, which until 2005 hadn't fully implemented daylight saving time in their state, found that there was an increase of $3.29 per household in energy costs. The time change decreases the demand on energy, but it increases the usage during early spring and late fall. And third, there is no benefit to farming communities during daylight saving time. You probably grew up hearing that farmers were the ones who wanted daylight saving time. However, this is not true. It is harder for farmers to get their crops to market when the day begins 1 hour earlier. Dairies, particularly, are hit hard when the time changes. Cows have a harder time adapting to the time change, so their milking schedules really suffer. And my father, who has spent most of his adult life in the farming industry, says there is no real advantage to farmers to continue with daylight saving time. We have discussed the history of daylight saving time and a few reasons why this practice should be eliminated and why it's a good idea to eliminate daylight saving time. One thing is for sure, everyone has an opinion on daylight saving time. In my Facebook poll, many expressed their thoughts. One friend said it just doesn't seem natural. And another friend said the reasons for spring forward and falling back no longer exist. All we are doing is making ourselves miserable. There's an adage that says, you can't make a blanket longer by cutting off one end and sewing it onto the other. If this example won't work with a blanket, then how can it work with adding another hour to the end of our day? The time is now to eliminate daylight saving time.